The American Tailwind, excerpted from Warren Buffett's 2018 letter to Berkshire Hathaway shareholders. Charlie and I happily acknowledge that much of Berkshire's success has simply been a product of what I think should be called the American tailwind. It is beyond arrogance for American businesses or individuals to boast that they have done it alone. The tidy rows of simple white crosses and Normandy should shame those who make such claims. There are also many other countries around the world that have bright futures. About that, we should rejoice. Americans will be both more prosperous and safer if all nations thrive. At Berkshire, we hope to invest significant sums across borders. Over the next 77 years, however, the major source of our gains will almost certainly be provided by the American tailwind. We are lucky, gloriously lucky, to have that force at our back. For 44 years, Charlie and I have loved our jobs daily. We do what we find interesting, working with people we like and trust, and now our new management structure has made our lives even more enjoyable. With the whole ensemble, that is, with Ajit and Greg, running operations, a great collection of businesses, a Niagara of cash generation, a cadre of talented managers, and a rock solid culture. Your company is in good shape, for whatever the future brings. How to motivate teens struggling with remote school. Getting boys to engage in virtual instruction doesn't have to be a battle. Experts offer tips on how to make virtual school more bearable. By Julie Jogan. We are 9 months into the pandemic and remote school is wearing on students. Boys who are at a greater risk of falling behind academically than girls are having an especially tough time with all the hours spent behind screens. The challenges of staying focused and motivated in remote school carry even higher stakes for adolescent and teenage boys who face more academic pressure than younger ones. I reached out to child psychologists and education experts to find out how parents can help their sons and daughters remain focused and motivated in virtual school. They all said the first step is for parents to examine their own expectations and reactions to their children's struggles. There are some key pieces of advice. Enlist your child in developing solutions. What you need to do as a parent is try to stay away from your own catastrophic thinking and use your foremost consultant, which is your child himself, said Michael Thompson, a child psychologist and author of Raising Cain, protesting the emotional life of boys. He added, no one knows more about what he likes and what he hates about school than he does. How do you elicit meaningful feedback from an adolescent, no teenager who responds with one-word answers? It's about how you ask the question, Dr. Thompson suggests, saying something like, I see you are struggling with math and English. How can I help you with that? Confidence required. by Derek Service. Most of the time, we are working hard, head down, using what we know. We get better and better at it. We make little improvements and keep working. Our expertise and confidence keeps increasing. We can't afford to stop and question everything. We can't go back to school. We have work to do until we don't. Last year, I left my company and decided to start a new one. I wanted to replace my old thoughts with new ones. I had been working hard, doing one thing in one mindset for 10 years. I needed to install a new operating system in my brain. I read a lot of books on business, social psychology, management, behavioral economics, investing, cognitive biases, cross-marketing, networking, learning, and communication. But each book that made me feel smarter. Aha, I think I understood the world better now. Also made me feel dumber. Wow, I've been an idiot. It's surprising I survived at all. It was all very humbling. So humbling that I found it hard to do anything at all. After all I've learned, I can't believe anyone actually thinks they'll succeed in the complex world of business. Don't they see all the really smart people who have tried and failed? I can't believe how foolish I was to start my first company. Just me in my bedroom with no experience, making a little website when I was up against giant IPO founder competitors. I was an overconfident punk, thinking I had the answer, and everyone else didn't. But it worked. And in fact, isn't that kind of confidence absolutely required to get anything done? Isn't the role of entrepreneur to be the bold, dare, audacious one? The overconfident, reckless one who says, screw it, let's do it. Yes, of course. It's the essential final lesson that all this learning means nothing until you make something happen. Whether you think you will win or not, you need to jump in the game and say, let's go. Whether your confidence is naive, inspired, or crafted, you need its high horsepower engine to get uphill and go anywhere. And no matter how humbling the lessons of life are, this final lesson is the most important of all. Time to go make something happen. Modern Hippocratic Oath. I swear to fulfill, to the best of my ability and judgment, this covenant. I will respect the hard-won scientific gains of those some physicians in whose steps I work, and gladly share such knowledge as is mine with those who are to follow. I will apply, for the benefit of the sick, all measures that are required, avoiding those twin traps of overtreatment and therapeutic nihilism. I will remember that there is art to medicine as well as science, and that warmth, sympathy, and understanding may outweigh the surgeon's knife or the chemist's drug. I will not be ashamed to say I know not, nor will I fear to call in my colleagues when the skills of another are needed for a patient's recovery. I will respect the privacy of my patients, for their problems are not disclosed to me that the world may know. Most especially must I tread with care in matters of life and death. If it is given me to save a life, all thanks. but it may also be within my power to take a life. This is a awesome responsibility. Responsibility must be faced with great humbleness and awareness of my own frailty. Above all, I must not play at God. I will remember that I do not treat a fever child, a cancerous growth, but a sick human being whose illness may affect the person's family and economic stability. My responsibility includes these related problems. If I am to care adequately for the sick, I will prevent disease whenever I can, for prevention is preferable to cure. Create a More Spacious Life by Leo Babato. Contemplating how I want to live recently, I became clear in the last few months that I need to create more space in my life. My life is full, which is a wonderful thing. I have lots of people in my life who care about me, want to spend time with me, want to work with me. Amazing. And yet, it's become clear to me that in order to show up fully for everyone I'm serving, I need to also have space to replenish, to fill up my tank. So I set out to create that space. Here's how it looks for me at the moment. I'm taking December's and June's off, mostly. I had to talk with all of my clients and shift my programs so that I could do this, but it's happening. It also means I did a bunch of writing ahead of time. I'm still doing some work, including creating a new course and setting intentions for 2020. But I'm not doing clients' calls, webinars, or meetings. This month is the first time I've ever taken off a full month. I cleared Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays. I used to have meetings on Fridays and Saturdays, but now I keep those days clear. I still do some work, but it's much more spacious and I can take the day completely off if I feel like it. I'm leaving the other days more spacious as well. I only do about 3 calls a day, down from 5 to 6 calls a day at my peak, and I don't block off every hour anymore, so that I can have a greater sense of spaciousness. What do I do in those spaces? Anything I feel like. Here are some of my more common ways to use the space. Rest, head out to nature, spend time in solitude, listen to a podcast, reading with my kids, hang with my wife, call my mom, grandma, or siblings to catch up, read a book, reflect on bigger picture stuff, take care of chores, write a book about my grandmother, or do whatever work I feel like. I've found that this kind of space is incredibly nurturing, replenishing, life-giving, and so few of us take it for ourselves. I know that not everyone has this kind of freedom, and I'm grateful that I can do it. But I challenge you to see where you are cutting this possibility off for yourself and see if you could create it. It might take a few months to create, but if you stand for this possibility for yourself, you might surprise yourself. I Love You by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. I love your lips when they are wet with wine and red with wild desire. I love your eyes when the love light lies, lit with a passionate fire. I love your arms when the warm white flesh touches one in a fond embrace. I love your hair when the strands enmesh your kisses against my face. Nor for me the cold calm case of the virgin's bloodless love, nor for me the saint's white bliss, nor the heart of a spotless dove, but give me a love that so freely gives, and loves at the whole world's blame, with your body so young and warm in my arms. It sets my poor heart aflame. So kiss me sweet with your warm wet mouth, still fragrant with ruby wine, and say with a fever born of the south, that your body and soul are mine. Clasp me close in your warm young arms, while the pale stars shine above, and we'll live our whole young lives away in the joys of a living love. Trump's legacy, the shame and the opportunity. The invasion of the Capitol and the Democrats' victory in Georgia will change the course of Biden presidency. 4 years ago, Donald Trump stood in front of the Capitol building to be sworn into office and promised to end American carnage. His term is concluding with the sitting president urging a mob to march on Congress and then praising it after it had resorted to violence. Being no doubt that Mr. Trump is the author of this lethal attack on the heart of American democracy. His lines fed the grievance. His disregard for the Constitution focused on Congress, and his demagoguery laid the fuse. Pictures of the mob storming the Capitol are the defining images of Mr. Trump's un-American presidency. The Capitol violence pretended to be a show of power. In fact, it masked two defeats. While Mr. Trump's supporters were breaking and entering, Congress was certifying the results of the president's incontrovertible loss in November. While the mob was smashing windows, Democrats were celebrating a pair of unlikely victories in Georgia that will give them control of the Senate. The mob's grievances will reverberate throughout the Republican Party as it finds itself in a position, and that will have consequences for the presidency of Joe Biden, which begins on January 20th. One Year of Daily Blogging, Lessons and Insights by Steve Pavlina. Today officially concludes my 1 year daily blogging challenge that I committed to a little over a year ago. I started on December 24th, 2019, and have published a new blog post or video every day since then, so that's 374 days in a row if you include today's post. As you can verify from the blog archives, I successfully completed the challenge. I've been blogging every year since I started in 2004, but this is the first year that I've published something new every single day. This was an interesting experience, so I'll share some thoughts about what it was like, some of which might surprise you. I had no doubts that I could and would cross the finish line. As I've noted before, these kinds of challenges are won or lost in our minds before we begin day one. Quitting or skipping a day wasn't a temptation at any point. I was all in with this from the beginning. Partly, I did this as a gift to my future self. It creates a powerful new reference experience. I now know what it's like to publish something every day for more than a year and for the rest of my life. I'll always know that I'm capable of at least that much. Even 20 years from now, I will be able to remember that in the wild year of 2020, I published something new every single day. I've created and published more new material this year than in any previous year of my life. I've been earning a living from my creativity since 1994, so I have a lot of years of that behind me. It seems I still have a lot of years of that ahead of me too. I miss wearing office clothes. Tough times are easier if I'm well dressed. By Susan Westover. I'm mourning my office wardrobe. In pre-pandemic days, if I needed a boost to my self-esteem to grade my lines for a difficult day, I reached for my black and white houndstooth blazer with the hook and eye clasps and deliberately frayed edges. Paired with skinny jeans and a tall caramel leather boot, it struck the right balance between authoritative and relatable. Even more importantly, it was a gift from my mother after my first round in vitro fertilization field. She subscribes to the motto. She subscribes to the motto, look good, feel better. And when I was at one of my lowest points, she bought it for me from her month's grocery budget. When putting one foot in front of the other was almost more than I could bear, I found unexpected strength when I donned a silky pink tunic, dark leggings, and that houndstooth blazer. It was my office go-to throughout my fertility treatments. It helped to hide my ovaries, swollen to the size of peaches, after rounds of injections, but it also allowed me to conceal a sadness too painful to reveal. When colleague upon colleague announced joyful pregnancy news, today, my daughter is almost 9, and that blazer has remained a powerful go-to piece. When I put it on, I reminded that slogging through tough times is just a little bit easier if I'm well dressed for the occasion. Is There Such a Thing as Too Much Freedom? By Derek Sivers. I've always used freedom as a compass to guide my decision. We moved a lot when I was a kid. I lived in 5 states and countries by the time I was 5. I left home at 17 and went off to college as far away as I could. I joined the circus for 10 years. Then I quit my last job in 1992, vowing to quit a living making music and never have a job again. A few years after I started my company, I delegated all of my responsibilities, making myself unnecessary to the operations of my company. so that I was afraid to go live anywhere and do anything. My email was filtered by the customer service staff. Hardly any needed my personal reply. So I was afraid to go days without checking email. I gave away most of my stuff, including my entire recording studio, to my employees. So all I had left were some clothes and my laptop, free to travel lightly. I moved to London for a year, just because I could. I hardly told anyone I was gone. Most people thought I was still in Portland. Then I went to San Francisco for a few months, India for a month, and Iceland for a month. Friends back home would say, friend back home would say, "So what did you do in Iceland?" I'd say, "Same thing as you, same thing I'd be doing anywhere else. Just programming, working, writing, reading, living the laptop life, location agnostic." I had done it. I'd reached the final destination of my lifelong pursuit of freedom, awesome and overwhelming. So, wow, now what? Where do you go when you can be anywhere and don't have to be anywhere? What do you do when you can do anything and don't have to do anything? What if you had no ties, nothing holding you to any one place? What if you had unlimited plane tickets? What if you never had to work again? Is there such a thing as too much freedom? This story isn't coming to some conclusion where I answer the question. I'm still living the question.